Hi, this is Sarah from In Accountancy, and today I want to look at the role of a business owner, or should we say the multiple hats and roles of a business owner in terms of owning, operating and running a small limited company. This is something that we find small business owners really struggle to understand, that actually you have three distinct hats that you wear as a business owner of a small limited company. Now, I'm not talking about the operational roles. So it might be as an employee of a business, especially if it's just yourself, you have a marketing hat, you have a sales hat, you have a finance hat, you have an operations hat, you have a manufacturing hat. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fundamental structure of the business and what your roles and responsibilities are as shareholder, director and employee of your own company. So I suppose that's the starting point. And as the owner of a small limited company, it's most likely that you will be the shareholder, so the investor or the owner of that company and in that company. You might also be, and you're most likely also going to be, the director of that company. So the director has certain duties that are legally binding that it must fulfill as a director of the company. And then you'll also be the employee of that company, so responsible for the day-to-day doing of the business. So let's start with that point, because I think it's the easiest to understand, especially if you've come from an employed role at some time or another. So as the employee, you will be the person who's responsible for delivering the work. It might be winning the work, it might be selling the work, it might be doing the work. It might be invoicing for the work, might be getting the money in, but you will have all of these responsibilities within your job. And for that job, the employee gets paid a salary. So that's a simple, fair exchange of money for job, ideally money for results. Now, as an employee, even of your own limited company, some rules apply, such as minimum wages. So unless you are a director without a contract in place and you're also a shareholder of that company, the minimum wage rules will apply to you. So that's something that people can fall foul of every now and again. But the employee one's pretty easy to understand and box off. So the second role of a business owner is the company director, more often than not. And as I mentioned at the start, the company director has a number of legally binding fiduciary duties. It's never easy for me to say. But these duties, and you can find out more details on those, but there are 7 of them which are the prominent ones to which you're obligated as company director. So those are to act in the best interests of the company, to act within your powers, to avoid conflicts of interest, and to exercise independent judgment. Then you need to make sure that you are using reasonable skill, care, and diligence. You're not to accept benefits or gifts, and you must declare an interest in any transaction or any other arrangements. So I think if you've been listening to any news recently, we know that there have been certain prominent figures who have maybe been charged with not necessarily either taking due care or declaring the interest that they might have had in some sort of arrangements. This is really important to understand, because it does mean that while you may take a professional advice on a lawyer, an accountant, a business coach, it's still your responsibility as a company director to make sure that you are working within the framework, that you have understood what your role is and what your obligations are to your business and to HMRC and to Companies House. So I'll drop a link to Companies House articles on these fiduciary duties into the comments so you can understand those a little bit better. So the third role that you've got as a small business owner is that of the shareholder. So the shareholder is an investor in the business, or in this case, the owner of the business. There might be just yourself, there might be just one shareholder, there might be multiple shareholders. Now, if there's more than one shareholder, I implore you, get a shareholders agreement in place right from the outset. Do it when you're friends, when you've all got hopes and dreams that are moving together, and you've got a vision of where you want to get to and you're both on the same page. Because unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way. More often than not, we see the two people who think they're aligned and working together maybe go different paths for any sort of reason, and somewhere a little bit of resentment pops in or a little bit of an argument pops in. And if there's no shareholders agreement in place, it's very, very difficult to resolve these issues and arguments, which can ultimately result in the collapse of the business. So please get a shareholders agreement in place, do it properly. So if you do it with a really good lawyer, they'll sit down, they'll work through it with you. And actually the value is often in the conversations you have at that point, so that you understand whether you're on the same page or not, and you understand what you're both going to do should the worst case scenario happen. So hopefully it'll be like your house insurance. You'll pay for it once, you'll put it away, you'll never have to think about it again. So what's the value in being a shareholder in business? Well, you get paid usually by a distribution of profit. So all of the operational results have taken place within the employee role and the director role. And then the shareholder has no actual input in the day-to-day operational running of the business, which is why the shareholder gets paid by way of dividend, which is a return on their investment in the company. And dividends can therefore only be distributed after the operational expenditure has been taken care of, and the corporation tax that's due has also been applied and taken care of. So the benefit of a shareholding structure within a small business is that you can, should you wish, have your spouse, your adult children involved as shareholders in the business, and therefore you can distribute dividends to them. They'll obviously be subject to tax at that individual's rate of taxation, and you won't get any corporation tax relief for the distribution of dividends like you do whenever you pay somebody a salary. But nonetheless, it is a good way to extract money to your family from your business, and because it's a return on ownership, you don't have to have minimum wage conversations, you don't have to have contracts of employment, and you don't have to ensure that they are fulfilling a role within the business. They are simply part owners of that business to have that distribution of profit. So hopefully that makes sense. A little overview and insight into the three hats that you have as the owner of a business. As ever, it can be quite complex. I'll pop a couple of links in the comments or the description to the video. And other than that, any questions, as ever, drop us a line, give us a buzz, put them in the comments. And as you know, we do our best to answer every single question that we get asked. So thanks very much. Bye for now.